Okay,
Can we go in and ask questions, or?
We'll get started here, man. Are you ready?
there have been a lot of people that asked for it online.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get that set up. Your microphones aren't working, typical, you know. So you're gonna have to speak up because I believe that is picking up the sound. Those aren't connecting for some reason.
Okay.
So I will try to
Yell out.
navigate that. Yeah, let's just, so,
Okay.
and then I know you have stuff to show. So.
Now, do we want to connect to the TV monitor
I'm
for
working on
that?
that too.
Okay.
I just,
Let's give Karen a minute or two and then we'll get started.
Yep.
And just to set the meeting up, we wanted to have an informational type of meeting to bring the designer from Troyer Group in to take a look at where this trail is going for phase 2. We also have a Lake Max phase 3 meeting following this one that we're hoping to start around 4:45. Karen said that there were several people that couldn't make it to this, so we will probably follow up with another informational meeting if it's necessary, or if people didn't get their questions answered or that sort of thing, and particularly if there's difficulty with the technical side of it.
Assuming this gets set up, though, Karen's going to record it, and then it would be available for people to tune into and to watch if they didn't make the meeting.
Yeah. So depending on how the technical side of that works, we may follow up with another one, because sometimes we get disconnected with the Wi-Fi, or the people online can't hear us, and we want to be fair to those people that they would get an opportunity to be heard.
scroll through because I'm all sitting on
So Karen's going to try to monitor the online version of this meeting. And in the meantime, what I think we'll do is, I know Bob's very familiar with this project, as well as Mike, obviously, as the rep from the engineering firm. We're going to have them sort of go through the picture of the trails, do some informational, and then we'll let you ask some questions as you see fit and do our best to answer those for you, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike, to walk us through some of the pictures that you brought along. And Bob, feel free to pipe in if you need to at any point.
Can we have some introductions, please?
Sure. This is Mike from Troyer Group Engineering Firm.
Okay. I'm Rich West, I'm on the town council.
I'm Jenny Monroe, Town Council President.
Sally Ricciardi, Town Council.
Bill Clevenger, Town Council.
And Bob Porter is our Utility Manager and Street Department Manager as well. So, and I know we hear from Union Township rep. And your neighbors, I assume. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. So this project is the phase 2 of the Lake Max Trail. It started from a master plan that was done about 4 or 5 years ago for the town, and also developing a loop trail around Lake Maxintucky. So the first phase of the trail has been completed, and that's in the town park along the railroad corridor up to Academy Road. Phase 2 connects to that at the southwest corner of the park, and then continues along Washington, down Plymouth, down to Main Street, and connects to West Shore Drive. And I'll go through the exact route of the trail here in a minute. But just for some context, then there was additional phases, 6 or 7 in total, that were identified as part of that master plan to go around the lake over the next couple of decades as funding would allow, and state and federal grants and everything. So this project was one of the projects that was that came through the Stellar Communities program. So we received funding from INDOT to do this trail. A year and a half ago now, and then We've been working through kind of tweaking the design, and it's scheduled to start construction later this year.
Do you have an exact date for phase 2?
To start construction?
Yeah.
It will probably be early September would be my guess. There's not an exact date set yet.
NDOT has requirements on these grants, and these grants, from the time you're awarded a grant, it's usually 4 years later before the whole project's complete. So early on in that, you have public hearings, then you go into this design phase, then you go into the construction phase, and NDOT has all sorts of requirements because it's federal dollars that are paying for this with a 20% match from the town. And I believe in this case, our redevelopment commission made the match on the grant.
So we have the plans, engineering is due in early April, and then NDOT does all their review. There's some parcels that required acquisition that's been completed with town and one of our sub-consultants and those homeowners. And then it goes through the NDOT public bidding process, and then those bids from contractors will be opened in mid-July, and then it would go through NDOT's processing, which usually takes about 45 days, which brings us to like that early September start date.
And that would be for phases 1 and 2?
For phase 2. Phase 1's already completed through the park, and that was done by the town. Marshall County Highway donated some of the pavement and labor. So that's in, going from Academy Road through the old railroad corridor through Town Park, and connecting to this start of this project on the end of Washington Street. So I will go through the kind of plan set, and then can open it up to questions. You know, more specifically, if it deals with your property, your neighbors, or any of the other design elements that you may have questions on. So you can see here the Lake Max Trail Phase 1 in the park is to the right, and it starts on Washington Street heading to the west. Washington Street will be one way going to the west with a 10-foot travel lane, keeping the parallel parking on the north side, and then just striping the asphalt to designate an 8-foot trail on the south. With the low traffic on this road, it was fine to have the trail just kind of marked on the roadway rather than having it separated. And there was limited right-of-way available. Okay, so continuing west on Washington Street, you come and Town Hall is there kind of on the left side, and there's the large kind of just open asphalt area there. We brought the trail through there and added some parking to kind of make better use of that space. And then the trail will continue cross over Plymouth and head down the west side of Plymouth Street, where there's a pretty large tree lawn there. So now this map, whoops, sorry about that. So the top graphic, you can see it's now north is to the right. So Town Hall is just down off the corner right here. So head south on Plymouth Street, 9-foot concrete trail, and then cross over to Jefferson and utilize the existing sidewalk on Jefferson because it's already wide. So to be designated a trail per NDOT and IDNR and just general kind of engineering requirements, it needs to be at least 8 feet wide. 10 feet is preferred, especially if there's going to be cyclists and pedestrians on the same trail. But in some areas that, more dense areas and residential areas, 8 feet is fine, especially on more neighborhood streets where cyclists could be, higher speed cyclists at least could be in the roadway. And then that would leave the trail 8 feet for people walking, running, families with kids biking and things like that. So this project, some areas are 10 feet, some 8. In one area right here, we had to go down to 7. But the alley from Plymouth down to Marmont, we will just be kind of repaving that alley, and it'll be a shared alley and trail through there. So it'll be a little bit wider just to accommodate some of the alley access. And then it connects on Marmont Street. Because of some of the right-of-way issues, it goes down to 7 feet for just a small stretch in there before it heads south on the west side of Plymouth.
Hey, Mike, could you explain right of way real quick, like a quick
Sure.
definition?
Yep. So on these drawings, the blue dashed line is the right-of-way line, which is also the property line. So for each of these parcels, that blue line would be where the homeowner's property boundary is. And then on the roadway side of that is the town's property, which is the right-of-way within the road. So the right-of-way can vary from 30 feet to up to like 60 feet wide, just depending how that was, platted and recorded when all of this was laid out. So that the right-of-way is where, the towns and cities would have sidewalks, tree lawns, lighting, utilities, and all of that. So typically the homeowner, would mow that grass, clear the sidewalks, whatever each individual town or city's ordinance is, but it's technically owned by that town as part of the right-of-way. So basically, per NDOT, the project has to be developed in the right-of-way. So if there's any areas where we needed to go into private property to make improvements, you'd have to go through NDOT's property acquisition process. And that follows a strict federal process where the homeowners are notified and have opportunities, to talk about. In this case, it's all been very minimal, like a few feet, 5-10 feet here and there. There's some projects where it may, roadway, bigger projects that NDOT where, the city or state would have to allow the homeowners relocation opportunities and things like that. So that's where the right-of-way process that NDOT follows protects the homeowner. But for this project, just being a trail, that sort of acquisition was not necessary. So if you have not heard from anyone, there's not going to be any work on your private property for this project. So the trail will continue along Plymouth Street to the south. Once we get past Hawkins, the alignment of the road didn't allow room for the trail. So we had to slightly move the road a little bit to the east in that corner. And it also got narrowed to about, it was like maybe 16 feet. So we just expanded it to 10-foot travel lanes, which is kind of the minimum allowed width for a travel lane. And that could get us to have the road and the trail through this corridor in the right-of-way.
What was the width of the road again?
I think it was about 16. It varied. It wasn't consistent, but in one spot it got down to almost 16 feet where it was kind of difficult for two vehicles to pass going opposite directions. And then continuing south on Plymouth Street, there'll be new curb and sidewalk. This will be a wider sidewalk to be a trail. The people's the homeowners along this stretch where there's the trail going in, the entrance or the approach to your driveway would be improved as part of this project. So that's what you can see, kind of all the openings to the driveways there. And then where Plymouth dead ends into Davis Street, we head west on Davis, and then it will follow south on Main Street. You can see a couple of the properties there with the yellow lines. That's where we needed to acquire a little bit of property to fit the trail, because it didn't fit within the existing right of way.
So those people would have received notice from NDOT through their right-of-way process that, hey, we need to acquire some property, and it probably would have been offered a price
there's
for
an
that.
appraisal done, and then they're offered based on, the percentage of the parcel that's being acquired, what that fair price is from the appraiser, and all that process has been completed, and there were no issues there. So so that trail rounds the corner and heads south on Main Street and continues down Main Street with a pretty typical section of about a 5-foot tree lawn and the 10-foot sidewalk trail, continuing down the east side of the road until it gets to West Shore Drive. So some of the crossroads here, there'll be some ADA curb ramp improvements to make it more accessible and meet the ADA regulations, some crosswalks. And then we'll continue down to the end of the project where it connects to West Shore Drive. And then for now, West Shore Drive is kind of just treated as a shared roadway and bikeway until future phases around the lake can become available. So that's overview of the project. I don't know, Jenny or Rich or Bob or anyone else on council, if there's anything you'd like to add at this point.
Bob, anything else?
No, I'm good.
So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes.
Thank you for having this opportunity to speak and ask questions also. But I'm just curious, where the sidewalk is not going to be necessarily in the same place as the new trail, will the sidewalk still be removed? Say like our sidewalk is not exactly where the trail would be.
Oh,
Yeah, your house, the sidewalk behind the trees, that'll come out and go to sod or grass seed, and the trail will be on the outside.
Okay, so it'll be kind of moving outward somewhat.
Yeah,
yeah.
the sidewalk that's behind the trees that's broken up, that'll all come out and go back to dirt
Okay.
or grass. And that goes on the outside.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah, there's a couple locations where that's the case, and basically the trail becomes the wider sidewalk.
I just didn't know if, with the changes, if there might be people who still have
Double
their own
sidewalk sort of thing,
in their
yeah.
yard or anything. Okay, great. Also, any trees that are in the path, if they're removed, will they be replaced? That's something that John Weiss did mention when we met back in 2019. So I just was curious, since he's no longer here, if that's
Yep.
still going to happen.
Yeah, the goal, and again, NDOT has some requirements for that through their environmental process, that if you remove trees, that you replace them. Some of the places where trees are coming out, we won't be able to replace it in the exact same location, but we'll try to get it as close as possible and have it so the total number of trees removed, we'll be putting that many back in.
Thanks.
In the picture that you have right there, it's a cemetery on the south end.
Mhm.
I know you're taking out the big tree, which is not a problem. The boulder that's there on the corner, that you asked me to remove. I'm concerned about removing that because the boulder was put there because there are 2 pillars right there on the corner. So that
Okay.
people don't cut that corner too short and take out the pillars.
Okay,
So can I move the boulder just back in a little bit, or does it have to be gone completely? I don't want those pillars hit.
yeah, so it'd be people probably more heading, westbound turning north. I
Right.
assume that would be doing that, so it could be moved, to the east, further down
Down
from
into
that.
the,
That would
into the
kind of,
cemetery a little more.
yeah, and then that would still, block people from hitting that in the path. It just wouldn't be out on that corner as much.
Okay. So when I get ready to move that, I can call somebody, Bob, and you guys will tell me where I can put it?
Yeah, because it wouldn't be something that the INDOT project contractor could do, because it'd probably be going into the private property outside the
Right.
right of way.
I just hate to take it out completely because those pillars would be open
Sure.
to truck
Yeah.
traffic then and could be out in a heartbeat.
So I'll make a note of that though, and we're all, Tory Group's also providing the construction inspection for the project, so it's part of the INDOT process. There has to be a engineering consultant, construction inspector out on site full-time with the contractor.
Right.
So we will be able to kind of coordinate some of those things as construction goes to and continue to be involved in the project, so that's always helpful. But I'll sure to make a note. Any other
I guess
questions?
I got a question. I'm on the west side of Plymouth Street between Davis and Winfield, and I guess I don't really understand, is that sidewalk just gonna be made wider then?
Let's
Is
see.
there gonna be some separation between the trail and the street then? I guess I don't really get how that's gonna work.
You said you're on Plymouth.
Yeah, between Davis and Winfield.
Okay. Yep. So the trail will just be, or the sidewalk trail will just be right off the back of curb and then be 10-foot width. So there won't be a tree line in there anymore.
Right.
Yep.
But
So there's a
where's
few-
that gonna, where would the west side of the trail start then? Is it gonna be like on the west end of the sidewalk? Where
Yes.
where the existing sidewalk is?
Yeah.
So 10 feet over from that?
Yep. So basically it'll be the west edge of the sidewalk and then go there to the curb rather than having the tree line that's there currently.
Okay.
And I'm assuming that would be the same on the stretch between Winfield and Hawkins Court, because I see Randy's here.
Correct. Yeah, right around Hawkins Court, the right of way gets a little bit wider, and we can start to have a little bit of separation.
Yeah, his house is actually
Yeah,
that way.
it's majorly impacted.
That stretches like this in another way.
Well, Randy's on the same side as my house. There's another lot in
The
between.
one right, maybe.
Be the one,
Or I think your old.
yeah,
house.
my old house.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, when you
Old
live
house,
in,
new
is it
house.
there? Got it.
I have a question. And I don't know who this is directed to, but may I stand up? I need to.
Oh, sure.
Point something on here. There's 2 shaded areas right here and right here. Those are my 2 current parking spots that have been with that house since who knows when. My house is, the deed says 1900. Has there ever been a case where a homeowner is getting stripped of their parking privileges in front of their house for a bike path, not a road. So,
Question, comment,
Yeah.
questions about the same subject.
there's also major issues with that alley that is just to the north of my house there. I'd like to invite all of you to go drive through that alley right now, because it's been raining. It is a complete disaster. And to go spend all this money on the spike trail, let's address some issues in town that are existing and fix those first. I've lived in that house since 2005 and I've poured a lot of money into it to do drainage with a joint project in 2009 with my neighbors to control the flooding in this area. And if you guys build the spike trail, there's also underground piping you need to know about, which I did turn into someone here at Town Hall, a younger guy, and he said he was gonna give it to the engineers to know about, because if you dig that concrete in right there in front of my house, you're gonna destroy the 4-inch piping we put in for the drain. So that has to be addressed. And what am I supposed to do with my vehicles? Where am I supposed to park if you build this trail? In that muddy alley that's unmaintained? So
Are these parking spots on the road right now, or is it?
they are on the road, it is curved in and it's paved almost directly up to my property line. Yes, I accept it's town property, but isn't there some kind of clause or grandfather for that house? Because that house is one of the oldest in this part of town. I mean, horse and buggies used to park out in front of that, and now you're gonna take it away. So, put yourselves in my shoes
To my knowledge, no, I would actually have to look at your property
and
too to
see,
understand it.
put yourself in my shoes and see how you would address this situation and how you would feel about it. Because I have a nice lot of plan. My property's the one you have to design around because I was grandfathered in with the big lot. Then you started doing smaller lots. That's why it's cut. I have that corner there you guys can't touch. And that's why the whole thing is getting curved. And now my other neighbors' properties are getting destroyed. And what you're doing is you're making a 2-lane highway right through our neighborhood. And speeds are gonna increase, and they already fly through there fast enough as it is. And it's a poor plan. You guys need to take a right as soon as you come through that alley and get back on Main Street and stick on Main Street. That's my thoughts.
I'm his neighbor, and that road is already nice enough for a
It's
trail.
beautiful.
It is, it's really beautiful through there. And I don't see why you can't leave it, just like the street that you're doing over on Washington or someplace over on that side of town. It's really nice through there, and I don't know why you want to do this. Another thing, I don't know why, or I wonder why you didn't go on the outskirts of town rather than through town.
I agree. Well, for that, I was trying to get neighborhoods and connecting neighborhoods with the parks and different, aspects in the community. And there's also a desire to keep the trail, as close to the lake as possible, knowing that it wasn't going to be possible everywhere. But this was what came through, the public engagement that was done as part of the overall trail master plan years ago.
Well, can our road be looked at, check it out again, to check it out? It's really a nice trail through there. And we already have so many people that do walk, use that
Exactly.
as a trail.
Exactly.
Just leave it
Can we use
alone.
It's a
the
natural
sidewalk
bottleneck
along
right
there?
now, as it
Okay.
is.
Can I just ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Are you talking about a sidewalk that's currently there?
Our house has a sidewalk, but no, I'm talking about the street itself. The
Right.
street itself is
It's,
very nice.
to me, it's not safe to walk in the street,
They do.
especially if you have people speeding through there, as he says, at high speeds.
That's,
No, that's if you build a new
We
two-lane
have more
road.
we have
You
more
said There's
people,
already people driving really fast.
They
through
do,
there, So
they do.
I'm just quoting you.
Yes.
we have more
That to me
people,
is not safe to expect people to walk in the street.
we have more people walking down that street than we do driving down that street.
That would tell me to make it safer, not to,
I don't know. I'm just telling you, that street is nice enough. I don't think you need to tear up everybody's yard and impose on people.
it's
To
not
make-
the yard, though, that's the right of way right there.
I understand that, but it's already nice enough.
I got a couple
And you're
other
already doing
questions.
it for another street over by Washington Street. You're gonna leave it alone, leave our street alone. It's nice enough.
What street are you referring to, please?
South Plymouth Street, up between Hawkins and Winfield,
All right,
through there,
Thank you.
Yes, I have another question.
and on further down. It's
These
down to the
historic
cove.
trees that are right here, that are on my neighbor's property, Tim Oldham, are those planned to be removed? I mean,
No,
you're gonna keep those?
Yeah.
And be able to get that sidewalk in there, not interfere with the root system?
yep, and there's an existing curb through there
No, there's not.
that, in that area,
There's no existing curb to that area.
That's about line the survey is.
Well, the survey's wrong.
It's really
There's no
low.
curb there, sir. I've lived here all my life. There's no curb on that road.
Sally's saying
There's a
There
curve
is.
that's offset to the back.
it's not on the
Which is
roadway
actually-
edge. It's like from the road a long time ago.
There is a manhole that's right here, but there's not a concrete edge on the actual road.
I think the
It's
grass is
set
growing
back.
over.
It's set back in the grass,
It's
like the road used to be there, but it's been filled over and there's some grass
Okay.
over it.
All right, understood. Now, what's to say people walking down this path aren't going to take a right turn or a left turn and go down Hawkins to get closer to the lake and check out all the nice, big, wonderful houses over here, and then circle back on Winfield? I mean, they do that constantly anyways. You talk about a bottleneck down here at Winfield, you can't even get two cars around that curve. I mean, there's a lot more issues in this town that can be addressed rather than this bike trail.
Understood, we'll take that into consideration, but at this point, this has all been mapped out.
I know,
for
and I've been
a long period
putting,
of time, I'm not gonna argue with you,
I don't want to argue either.
I get it, but people can walk where they want now. I mean, they're walking in the street right now. If they wanna go down to Hawkins Court, they can. I mean,
All I'm
you
saying,
can walk on Fleet Parkway
all I'm
north
saying is,
Middletown.
if you increase the speeds through there, widen it up, the cars can fly even more than what they already do. People are walking on that
Actually-
path with children, I can see
actually,
something
sir,
drastic happen.
Actually, when you put in a trail system, it usually calms traffic. There's a significant data on that. It calms traffic. So I'm just giving you data-driven information.
Well, that's so, that plays in your favor.
Does anyone else have questions?
Stupid question about the trail. Is it going to be like a two-lane for both lanes of traffic for the bicycles?
It won't be striped like a bikeway, it'll
But-
just be a wide sidewalk essentially.
Right, so you could go one way or the other,
So
but it
does it-
doesn't force you to go
Well,
one
I'm on
way.
South Main. Is it going to take part of South Main away then?
The-
For car traffic?
No, the roadway itself, you
Uh-huh.
mean? No. Um,
Bring that picture up.
Yeah.
Because I live right across the street from them.
Whoops. So here's kind of the typical section. So South Main, the roadway edge will be the same as it is. Currently, the sidewalk is about 5 feet wide. It'll just be expanded to 10 feet wide towards the road.
I see, so
But
it
there'll
won't
still
take
be a
off.
tree line in there.
Because there is a traffic problem around that corner. They
Yeah.
gun their cars
As soon as it comes around the corner, 30 miles an hour.
Yeah,
If they could get some more signage there or something.
Okay,
Yeah, in
I mean,
addition
it
to,
is terrible.
okay, so you're saying, 'cause I live on, like I said, right across the street from where I live on the corner of Prado and Main there. So this pathway is gonna go, you said, from the road to where the edge of the sidewalk, point that out again?
it'll be, it varies a little bit through there, but in general, it'll be the edge of the sidewalk towards the houses. That'll stay the same,
Okay,
and then it'll expand 5 feet towards the road.
okay, so it's just an addition to where the sidewalk is right now, currently
Correct.
towards the road.
Correct. It just is widening the sidewalk, so.
Because my front porch is like almost really close to that sidewalk.
Yeah, it won't get any closer to your house, it'll just get closer to the road.
Yeah, but it
It'll
just
be
seems like,
expanded that way.
all right. Also, I have a huge tree that is actually on my property on my side of that sidewalk. I don't want it touched.
Yeah, no, it would not be. If it's on your side of the sidewalk, it won't be touched.
Yeah, because it's been there for, I've been here 17 years and it's my only shade tree left.
Yep. No, that one, if it's in your yard, on your property outside the right of way, it won't be
All right.
touched.
Because it does overhang that sidewalk and it probably overhangs the street just a little bit. But if there's any problems, if somebody comes along and starts chopping down it, parts of that tree like they already did. Yeah, I just want to know if that's gonna have to happen. They already cut
There's
off
a branch, I don't know how low the branches
Well,
are.
the low one has already been cut off when they
Okay.
redid road, and I don't know how many years ago, for the living
Garden
quarters
court.
down the street there, yeah. But,
Yeah,
yeah, we're saying more of it.
I wouldn't anticipate
Okay,
needing to do any of that, because,
all right,
tree removal and limbing, it's all part of that environmental, process that's documented in there. So if it's not in our plans, which it isn't, to limb that tree,
okay,
the contractor would have to get that cleared before they would do anything if there is some issue with equipment. But as far as getting concrete in there for a sidewalk, they shouldn't need to do any limbing for that.
okay. Also, for this is just basically on South Main, it's just gonna be like a widened sidewalk is where it's gonna be done.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any chance that you can relook at from Winfield down to the curve where it curves at the cove? Can you relook at that area?
Winfield
Because
to
it's
the
really
cove.
nice. I don't see why you need to do anything to that area.
It's just adding a sidewalk to get people off the road, so it's not.
Yeah, but it's taking
And
probably 10 feet out of our
Sidewalk is
yard,
One thing.
And it's affecting
from-
and it's
him.
going to shorten my driveway a lot.
Mhm.
And right now, you can't hardly park 2 cars on it.
My porch is like right there.
And our house is next to his.
And it's nice through there. I don't,
Yeah, I don't get it either, but
Oh, wow. They'll probably start falling down and it doesn't.
right there where the turn's at.
A lot of people are.
My house is the
really
upper right,
upset
upper left, I mean. on the-
Between Hawkins and Winfield.
Here's this one here?
Yeah,
yes.
and see, it turns right there.
And it's gonna be more of a curve. You're gonna make it more of a curve right there.
I'm gonna take a lot of
Yeah.
my driveway.
And that's, I think that's where that pinch point was. It wasn't, it was too
Yeah.
narrow for a roadway, for 2 lanes of
Yes,
traffic
like
there.
this.
So how can he park 2 cars in his driveway without being in fear of blocking this trail?
And the,
You're
and
asking for some, a lot.
the house across the street from ours, their driveway is gonna be affected a lot.
More than ours,
Yeah,
I
more
think.
than ours. But it's
Yes.
so
David.
nice through there. Just check it out.
Yeah, I walk down there too. It's lovely. It's beautiful.
Mhm.
It's more of a pedestrian area.
It
really.
is. We have more pedestrians than we have cars coming through there now.
Where am I supposed to park?
I don't know, I'd have to come look at your property. Is there any driveway on that property, or has there ever been?
I have one little garage that is so small that a modern car can't even fit inside of it. I park my motorcycle in it. That's it.
Is there a driveway in front of that garage?
4 foot maybe. It's more like a pull-off into the garage. You're more welcome. Drive down this alley, please. I'd like to, all of you,
Yes, so
take a
walk down.
drive through that muddy alley and see what kind of conditions me and my neighbors have been living with for, well, I've been there since 2005. And I would still have a pond in my backyard today if I didn't personally do the work and pay the money to put the drainage system in and tapped into the town's drainage system. Now it's halfway dry, but now we just have this continued muddy mess. It floods back into my neighbor's garage because it's not graded correctly. It's loose sand. I had a friend almost wreck on a motorcycle last week in there because it was so soft.
Right, it sounds to me though like that's a separate issue for you, that isn't, that.
But if you don't fix that, it will
Right.
impact your
And
trail.
we can look at that, I'm just saying it has nothing to do with him being a designer of this trail project. It's a separate issue on your property.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to hear
That's
that. That's between the
affected your
town,
property.
but
and we-
it kind of does because the
Yeah.
funding you want to spend on the trail could address other issues. So it does kind of tie together.
Well, and that doesn't just give us money to address your alleyway. They gave us money to do a trail project.
But
But
it-
there's,
we
there's only certain
applied-
things that can be used for the NDOT
We
funding.
applied for
but-
these federal funds to do a trail, not to fix alleys.
Will they pay for 2 new parking spots on the north side of
We
my
would
house?
not be able to
No.
get funding for alleys from the federal government.
well,
So
this-
how are we gonna address this?
If I had to drive that alley, tell me where I start and where I come out.
You start on South Plymouth and go north up to Main Street so you can work up the hill
Okay.
and then you'll make nice decent ruts through all the potholes and
I'll
the
drive it,
water.
but I just need to know where I'm gonna drive.
And when it does rain a lot, it will affect your trail because the water does come down that far.
Exactly, constant flooding and mud and debris is gonna go all over that concrete and cars mostly exit this way out of that alley.
We will take a look at that alley. We have stormwater issues all over town. We've been trying to systematically take care of those.
Okay.
There's only so much money in that stormwater fund. We just raised that, by the way. Your bill is gonna go up a couple dollars for stormwater because we have so many stormwater issues. That's not the only area that floods. We've had, remember the school when water would get up to the doorknobs on the cars? That was our biggest priority to fix. That was over $1 million and we had to do it on a grant because we don't have $1 million in the stormwater fund. Karen could probably tell you our stormwater fund, what's it at, like 40-some thousand or?
60-some, yeah. It's not-
And that took us 11 years to build to that point. We've been fixing stormwater issues, but you've only got so much money to do that. We will look at that because we don't want to have that affect the trail. But I see that as another separate issue and you're
It
gonna.
is a separate issue, but
And
my
it's the
parking
first time
spots is
I've
part
heard
of the
about
issue.
that alleyway in this council room and I've been for 14 years. So let us look at that as a separate issue.
Okay.
Anything else? On the trail that's,
Where are my 2 parking spots gonna be relocated to?
we're gonna have to look at that because it's not,
And
our
where's
roads are
the,
not set up just for you to be able to park your car.
I understand that, but show me another example where a resident of Culver has been taken away their rights and privileges to park out in front of their house by the town.
I don't know
If it's
that's-
not
can you
a
think
road
of
safety
that
issue.
Scenario, to my knowledge. I don't know that I can give you that scenario.
Well, then it sounds like I'm the
But
first here.
you're gonna have to wait for us to look at that. I mean,
As long as I'm on your list.
we expect there to be hiccups in big projects. We expect to have to look at things and work them out. But, being hostile about it isn't productive.
I'm not being hostile. I'm just trying to make my point.
We got your point. Does anyone else have a question about the point? Yes, Don.
Yeah, Don Baker, 604 South Main Street. So similar situation, but we used to have on the Davis Street side an actual curb there that allowed up to 3 cars to park there. So I know that's not realistic to expect that again. But I did ask when we had the meeting in 2019 with you, If I could put in a request, please, since that intersection where it turns is pretty wide there. If we could, the town would please consider our request to have one parking space there. So that grandma or Oma or whatever elderly relative could come over, babysitting and things like that, so that we wouldn't lose all of the parking. At least have one space if possible, somewhere on the Davis Street side, wherever it fits. It's like right out here, you guys are getting some new parking where it turns. I just wonder if you would consider something similar to that, to be able to not lose all the parking there.
It was with the trees there, we moved the trail in. I think there was right of way there. Those trees were in the right of way, but then we'd be taking all those out, and then there could still be enough room in that intersection with how wide it is to do the trail and then have your parking spaces. But I know you wanted to have those trees still there, so that basically the trail went outside of the trees in place of where the current parking spaces are. And whether it was 1 or 3, it was kind of the same as far as how the trail would go in there. So, and there was also the stormwater work on Davis there that had some, updates from what since that meeting, and, some of that drainage was, or that, paving was changed around in that project. But I think from when I went out on site and looked at that, basically where that edge of the asphalt is now from that paving project, that's about where the trail would start. It would just kind of replace that 10 feet of asphalt closest to your property.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, but, since we spoke with John about it, since we spoke with the engineers, put in a request back in 2019, when this first came up, and with the public input, that was my public input then, so I'm just gonna.
I remember talking with you.
Respectfully for you all to consider that again, as we're getting close to the construction date.
The only way we'd be able to do that is if we took out those trees.
Okay, well, I'd be open to that, to that conversation.
Okay.
Because those trees aren't in great shape anyway, it's not really a big secret, but, maybe we could think about removing them and possibly being able to discuss.
Let me make sure that those are in the right of way, but that would have at this point, it'd have to be something that would be brought up in, changing the construction, which can be a little difficult, but we can still look at it like all these other things that are being brought up, we can try to look at, but we won't, where we're at now and having these plans due to NDOT, we can't make changes to those now.
Right, but like this stormwater project that we recently had, we're gonna get into the project and find that some things are gonna be a little different than they look on the prints, because, and we went through that, and I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just saying, we all know what happens when the project starts.
Yeah, no.
Some consideration of that as we're going through, there might be an opportunity to.
Yeah, and another thing to consider with any of the tree removal is because this uses federal funding, we have to comply with the Indiana bat habitat regulations. So we can't have any tree removal between April 1st and October 1st. Okay. So that's just another thing that we need to juggle as far as, if there is some tree removal that wasn't planned for, whether that has to be something by the town or waiting till that date. So, I'm definitely not saying no, but it's just something that needs to be looked at some more, which we can do.
So if we look at that, Don, though, if you're open to taking the trees out, we could look at whether we would have, we have very small funds for tree removal, but the tree commission sometimes will do that as well on a project, just depending on where they're at with their own funding. So we'll have Bob and Mike look at that.
Or are those trees on our property, or are they?
They are in the right of way.
Oh,
so the right of way is kind of set back pretty close to your house there, actually. So so that could be done in the project.
Okay, well, if we could follow up with it offline outside this meeting, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mike, I know that Jim Harper had a question on his property. There's a culvert that goes under the road.
Okay.
That drains water from the cemetery area. And
Bob told me yesterday, I think it was, that they will not do anything with that.
So that answered that
Yeah.
question.
Okay, yep.
So they'll just curve.
Yeah, because that was
curve
looking
around it.
outside where the sidewalk expansion will be, so the same drainage pattern will occur.
It's basically in a strip of running top, so.
Okay. Thank you.
A quick question, back on the Main Street one, is on the outside of that, is there gonna be like a little strip of grass, where the sidewalk widens and then to the road, or what is the other
Yep.
portion there? You mind if I
Yeah.
walk up there?
So, yeah, if you wanna look at your house.
So, yeah, this is mine right here.
Okay,
So this is.
so that's the tree you were talking about there.
Right
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
because
So that
my
tree's
front
staying.
porch is probably, the steps to it is probably like
Halfway
maybe
under
about
that tree.
10. Yeah,
Yeah.
from, where sidewalk is now, right, to right near.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah, so it'll, be about the same to where the current sidewalk edge is, and then go 10 feet towards the road, and then you'll have about a 4 or 5 foot tree lawn there. to the road
Okay.
edge.
all right, so this is, like you said, this is the current sidewalk right here, and then it's gonna be, and towards.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like,
And is this just gonna be just a sidewalk widener, or is it gonna be like some sort of curve out here, or?
nope, it's just gonna be a widened sidewalk.
Okay.
We're not doing anything to the roadway itself.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I'm like, this would be third time in the property, well, I know it's not mine, but still, it's third time, because all this had to be redone for down here and then for, a little sewer pump over here on Hurricane.
Okay.
So, yeah, had some issues here the past 2 years, so that's why I was wanting to know.
Mike, is there gonna be a curb along South Main? In
Oh,
that area?
no, South Main, it's just gonna be the same, sheet drainage off the road.
So from the sidewalk, you'll have the lawn space. And
You know,
it'll just,
kind of like it is
Yeah.
currently, it's just gonna be a wider sidewalk and narrower tree lawn.
No additional drainage is being added anywhere, it's just all pavement and concrete for the walkway.
Yeah, it's basically following the existing drainage pattern, so where there was curb, there's still going to be curb, and where there wasn't previously, there won't be.
But no more inlets added or anything like that? No more inlets?
No, because it's basically, it sheets to like the culverts and under the road, his yard, so it just kind of still flows to those
Okay.
sheet flows or percolates in, depending how much rain.
Anything else before we move on to our second meeting?
Yeah, I got one quick question. It's not about the trail so much, but I don't suppose we'd be able to put a big fence up in my yard, so because the edge of that trail is gonna be about 8 feet from my front door and dining room windows and.
Thank you, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I was wondering about.
Would we be allowed to put up a fence right
My
on our
wife is
property
freaking
line?
saying we're gonna move.
It depends on the property line, I
Front
think,
yard.
and I don't know what our ordinance is on fencing, I think it can go
you can have a fence, I think, on the
on the property line itself, right?
But there's height limits.
Yeah, you can't put it in the right of way though,
No,
but
I
you can put it on
understand.
your property
And
I
like
line,
if you're,
understand
yes.
that.
you're right at a corner, which you're not, but if you were at a corner, it has to dip down so it doesn't obstruct the view of oncoming traffic.
And I think, Kurt, the height limit is, I wanna say 6 feet in the ordinance
I'm thinking.
on fences. Is it-
You could, look that up in the zoning ordinance. It's
Okay.
online.
All right, thank you. We'll recess before the next one. I know Doug is coming to that one, so I want to make sure before we do that one that he's available.
Yeah, he's out here.
Oh, great, okay.
Stage 3,
I appreciate you making